So what does good foundations practically mean in the world of Power Platform and Dynamics 365? And what advice would you give to people who are in the process of considering the adoption of those technologies?
So when we talk about good foundations, which is a really common kind of topic, especially if we're coming into a system that's already in play and we want to kind of go, right, we just need to assess your foundations. The easiest analogy I can say is think of it like foundations of a house. So we don't want to be building on anything that's rickety at the moment. If you think of, let's say you were going to do a housing project, and you know that in the short term, you've bought a really big plot of land. In the short term, it's going to be quite a small house, but you know over time it will probably extend and build out. You probably want to make sure that you don't put the house right in the corner of the plot of land so you can't extend one way. Or you want to make sure that the utilities are going to be up to scratch if it goes from 2 bathrooms to 6 bathrooms in the future. It just allows you to kind of look at that future expansion. And it's the same with a dynamic system or a Power Platform system. So when we're talking about good foundations, we're making sure that one, governance is in place and that solution management's there. If you're starting a new system, start as you mean to go on. What we do when we're doing a Greenfield system is the first thing we do is we spin up our environments. So usually 4, so dev, test, UAT, and production. Sometimes 3, dev, test, and production. That's probably the minimum that you want to get away with. And we will set up our pipelines with an empty solution in dev. You'll have nothing in it. And we will do a deployment all the way through to production of an empty solution so that we've got that pipeline flowing straight away. And then we can get going on development work. Start as you mean to go on. So that lifecycle management is one element. The next element, if we've got a system which is already there, is assessing things like automations and that kind of thing. So we use the admin hub for the Power Platform. We have a look at API calls, what's heavy tables, what are big tables, what's going wrong, are there errors being logged, and you just do a bit of a health check to see what's going on. The next kind of port of call in that world of an existing system is to do some interviews with stakeholders. Usually it turns into a bit of a therapy session of people will vent their frustrations with things, but it's really important to try and get them to talk about things that do work. But human nature means you tend to talk about the things that don't work. So that gives you a good idea of what the gap is between where they want to be and where they are now. And then it's just about planning out just to make sure that you can get to where you want to be. Knowing where you want to be is not just those stakeholders. You also kind of need to talk to that level above of what are the plans for this organization? Are you wanting to, so are you currently back office only, but you want to have an e-commerce arm? And if so, is that going to flow into the system? Have you got any plans to diversify or take on other companies? Those kinds of things. Even if it's not now, knowing it might happen in the future, it's kind of like that part that I said about building a house in the corner of the field. If you know that you might extend out, just move it in a bit. It's not going to hurt anyone, and it will give you that option later on, even if you don't use it. When it comes to greenfields, it's more about policies, because obviously you don't have all of that baggage to worry about. So you've got your ALM sorted, hopefully, and then it's just going, okay, well, is our policy going to be config over development, for example? So maybe you're an organization who doesn't have much of a technical arm, in which case you need to know that there will be boundaries to what you can make the system do. So a partner like ourselves, we can make it pretty much do anything because we can code and we can use Azure and all sorts of weird and wonderful tools. If you don't have that at your disposal, you've just got to be willing to accept that there will be limits to how far you can push something like Power Automate or anything like that out of the box. So acknowledging that is a really important thing. You're working within the confines of a kind of a building framework. Other things are things like So in-house, we have a policy of we tend to not use business rules, which is a way of automating field changes and visibility and things like that client side. So it replaces what used to always be done through JavaScript. We tend to favor using JavaScript or TypeScript, and that's just because we can then manage what is going on that form a lot easier. We once inherited a customer, and on one table they had, I think it was 90 different business rules that were all crisscrossing, and this one changed, and then this one triggered, and this one triggered. And it was an absolute nightmare to try and work out what on earth was going on and which one of those rules was the problem. If it's in TypeScript, it's a lot easier to step through and troubleshoot. So just planning, I think, is the big thing when I talk about foundations. And you can use the house analogy as well. You wouldn't just go running onto site and just start building a house. You would actually sit down and go, okay, well, where are we now? Where do we want to go? Okay, if we want to do that, what are the foundations that we need to lay in, and how do we get there, rather than just running headlong into it and just getting going. So take a step back, go for the less haste, more speed, plan it out, and just put those policies in place.
And does a good foundation differ between Dynamics and Power?
No, not really. In all honesty, it's because Dynamics kind of refers to the apps that sit on top of the Power Platform. It all comes down to, it's the same policy whether you're building on the data first or you're building a new website. To be honest, it's the same policy if you're going to vibe code something. You sit down and you still plan out what you're going to do, because if you were going to vibe code something without any planning, you're going to spend a lot of money on tokens as you change your mind constantly. So it's still as relevant regardless of what you're doing.